Hello everyone, my name is Ankit Jain. I welcome you all to my channel Take Journey with Ankit. This is the part 2 of our mini project expense tracker. In the first part, we have built the prototypes where we have seen how we can load the uh, LWC component inside the flow where we are displaying the chart with the help of LWC component. But again, in the first part, whatever we have built, it was with the static data. In this part, we will see how we can dynamically populate the chart by getting the data, making an apex call, and also dynamically populate the colors for the chart as well. So without further delay, we can get started. So before get started, in case you folks like to connect with me, please subscribe my YouTube channel. You can also connect with me on the LinkedIn as well. And you can also join the Telegram channel where we discussed all the frequently occurred queries in your Salesforce journey. So do make sure that you guys are connecting with me as well. Again, these are the different learnings that we already discussed in the first part. In case you folks didn't got a chance to go over the part 1, I will put the link in the video description. Please go over it. I assure you in this project, you will definitely learn some new things. So these are the steps that we have already followed in the part 1. Just a quick summary. We have created the expense object. After that, we have loaded the data into the expense object as well. Using the LWC repository, we have taken the 3 reference objects, error panel, library chart.js, as well as the static resources. We have renamed the library chart.js component. Also, we have compiled the error panel component as well. Moreover, we have uploaded the static resources. All these steps has been done in the part 1, and now we are moving on the part 2 where we will go and make an apex call. First, we will go and create a controller where we will go and fetch the data. After that, the next step that we will do here is we will go and modify the Lightning Web component to load the data by making an apex call. So first, let's go and create an controller. Again, this controller will expect the 2 inputs. One is the start date and second is the end date. Based on the dates that we are passing to our Lightning Web to our Lightning Web component. From the flows, we will be passing the start date and end date to the Lightning Web component. From the Lightning Web component, we will be making the apex call. So we have to pass the start date and end date, and based on that, we have to get the expenses in between those date range. And the way we are getting the expenses here is we are grouping the expenses based on the expense type. So let's go and write down that query. Again, a very simple apex that we have to write. There is nothing much complex in the apex. So creating the apex class, giving the name here of the class as expense controller. Again, my method needs to be called from the Lightning, so I have to make sure that I am putting here @aura enabled and also putting the cacheable equal to true. The reason I am putting the cacheable equal to true because in my method I am not performing any DML operations. So after that, let me go and write down my method public static. Again, I have to return the aggregate result because I'll be making the group query here, and I'm giving my method name here as get expenses group by type. Okay, and as I said, my method is expecting the 2 inputs. One is the start date and another one here is the end date. So based on that, we have to go and write down my query. Okay, so again, a very simple query that I have to write. Again, I generally follow this practice before I go and write down my query. I first put the query in the developer console so that I can assure that I am using all the correct API names of the field. If you want, you can also use the Salesforce inspector as well. Let's use the Salesforce inspector to quickly do that. So here I'll be making the query on the expense object. The kind of a fields that I am interested here is the expense type. So let me take that. Also, I am interested here in the sum of expense amount, right? What all expenses has been done. And again, I have to go and add the filter criteria as well. So I have to make sure that I do have my expense date as well. Again, the expense date I have to go and pass in between that. So that's fine. So let me go and take this query because I know that I'm using the correct API names now. So here I'll be putting my query. And as I said, I have to group the result. So here I'll be grouping my result. Okay, first let me go and complete this condition. So here I'm looking for the record which is greater than the start date. And I'm looking for the record which is less than or equal to. Here also let me go and put the greater than and equal to start date and less than and equal to end date. Basically, I'm looking for the records in between this date range. And again, I want to follow all the good practices. So let me go and also take care of the security part as well. So here I am taking care of the security. I'm missing the binding variable. So with user mode, and as I said, I want my result should be grouped. So here I'll be putting the group by where is that expense type. So this is how I want my records should be generated. So yep, this query looks good to me, right? And this data I want to return. So let me go and directly return the aggregate result here. So very simple query, which will be taking the start date and the end date as an input. And accordingly, I'll be building this query where I'm getting the expense type and the sum of expense amount. If I quickly show you the kind of a data that I will be getting without even putting the filter criteria, so that you guys will get a glimpse the kind of a data that we will be getting. So here, let me go and put it something like this. Now here, if I go and run this, here you can see that for each expense, I'll be getting this kind of a summary. But again, what I don't want here is the data for all the date range. I want my data should be limited with the specific start date and end date. That's why here I have added that filter criteria. One more thing that I can do here is, as you can see, by default, Salesforce is generating some dynamic column. Let's say I don't want to go and use that. So here I am putting my own alias for the column as well with the name of total amount. So very simple Apex that has been written. Let me go and deploy this. So my Apex looks good. Now moving to the Lightning Web component. Again, in case you guys have followed the bootcamp, or if you do have the basic knowledge of LWC, you might already guess that the first thing that we have to do here is we have to go and import the Apex class. So here I go and import my method. Let's say this is the method that I want from @Salesforce /Apex/ expense controller dot get expense type. Now I have to go and make a call to this method and populate the dynamic data. But before we do that, let's try to quickly understand how this LWC has been written, because we have not written this LWC from the scratch and we have taken the reference from the LWC recipes. So let's quickly go over it. So first thing that you can see here we do have one method. This method, it is generating the random number. So they have created this class. In that class, they have created this config object where they are saying that we have to go and populate the donut chart. Again, how the donut chart is expecting the data in this form. So this is the place, folks, where we have to go make sure that we are populating our data. Here you can see that everywhere they have hard coded the data here. And that they are doing it because they want to create a mock template, but we have to go and prepare the running functionality. So we have to go and populate this data here. Next thing, they have also defined the legend position and all those stuff. Generally, we go and define all this type of a data based on the third-party library that we are using. So if you do follow the chart.js library structure, right, you will see the similar kind of a JS structure that they might have recommended. After that, they are using the lifecycle method rendering callback where they are loading the third-party JS. Here you can see that they are loading the third-party JS. Okay. After that, they are putting that third-party JS into the canvas. Again, all these steps you generally get from the chart.js documentation. And that's it. A very simple Lightning Web component where they are not doing much stuff. So what we will do, as this is the section where they are populating the data, so let me simply take out this section from here. Okay, this is the data section that they are populating. I am cutting this from here, and what I will do here is let me go and define that data. So what I want, as soon as my component is rendered, right, I want to go and prepare my data. So here, first thing that I will be doing here is let me go and put the data as is that they have put. Let me check here. I am replacing this colon with equal to. Now I believe we are good. So this is the one variable that I have created where I do have this static data. Okay, in this variable, this is the part that they are populating dynamically. So let me take this out. I will populate this data dynamically by making an apex call. This is the data again that they are populating dynamically. So let me also go and take this out. Right, and the next thing that these folks are populating dynamically here is the labels as well. So let's go and take out those labels from here too. So this is how we are taking out all the different types of static data that they have populated. Now we will go and populate this data by making an apex call. This data we will get from the expense controller. Again, to make an apex call, what we have to do here is we will be using the await functionality again because they are already using the async await. So we will utilize the same logic and we will make our apex call. So here I go and put await. The method that I have to call here is the get expenses group by type. So let me get that method name. I am putting it here. This method, it is accepting the two different types of inputs. The first one here is the start date. And so how I will get the start date? So this is the variable that I have defined for the start date. So if I scroll down here, I will be putting this dot start date. That date should be passed here. Similarly, I'll be populating here the end date as well. Okay, so start date and the end date will be populated from here. I'll be making this apex call, and whatever the data that apex call is returning, I will go and store that data into the result variable. So here I go and create one variable. Let result is equal to await get expenses group by type as well. Okay, so this is how I will be populating the data here. Now, moving further, the next thing that we have to do here is we have to go and process this data because at the end we have to go and populate the data here, right? So what we will do, whatever the result that we are getting, we will iterate over that result and populate the actual data here. Again, to do that, let me use the for each loop. I have already covered all these basic JavaScript concepts in my bootcamp. So make sure that you guys are checking that out. How you can do the looping of the data, what all the different looping options are available, when to go for what kind of a looping. All these things are covered in very detailed in the bootcamp. So in case you folks didn't got a chance to go over the bootcamp, please check that out. So here I'll be using the for each, and the first thing that I'll be putting here is the item. Okay, whatever the current item that I do have, I am taking that item here, and after that I will be processing that item here. Let me go and put the arrow function to process that item. So what I have to do here, one after the other, I have to go and populate my data. So how I will be populating the data? The first thing that I have to populate here is this part where I have to make sure that I'll not be using the random numbers, but I will be using the numbers that I am getting from my apex call. Basically, this is what I have to use, right? This is what I have to go and use. So let me go and do that one after the other. Here also, I believe, yeah. Here also we have to go and populate, and here also we have to go and populate. So here, what we will be populating? Here we will be populating the expense type, and here we will be populating the expense amount. Okay, just a reference I am putting so that while populating the data, I don't know what I have to do. So how I can access it? So data sets, data sets under the first entry of the array, I do have this another array. So let's go and write it down. So here I'll be putting the data dot data dot data sets, and again where I want to put it under the first entry, so I'll be putting the 0, and after that I'll be putting the data here, followed by that I'll be putting the push because inside the array I have to go and add the data. So what I have to add as a first entry, I have to go and add whatever the item that I'll be getting dot whatever the alias name that we have given. So here I have given the alias name as total amount, so I'll be populating the total amount here. Okay, so that part has been done. It by over the loop, it will iterate over all this data that we will be getting in this form, and it will populate all these values. Now the next thing that we have to populate here is the expense type. So let's go and do that. My expense type should come up here inside the labels. How I will populate the labels? It's very simple, data dot labels, right? So let's go and do that. So data dot labels. What is that? Labels, right? So let me correct it, labels. Yes. After that, again, this is also an array. So here also I'll be putting the dot push, and here I'll be populating the item dot what is that variable name that I do have for that? That is the expense type. So here I go and populate the expense type. So this is how I have populated the data as well as the label. Now, one more thing that we have to make sure that the colors also are populating dynamically, right? Previously, they have hard coded the color, but we don't want that hard coded color. For example, whenever my output is getting generated, let me quickly show you. Whenever my output is getting generated, I want the colors should all be automatically populated. Let me run this one more time. Let me do this for the September month. I want this color should also be populated dynamically. Let's not make it static as well, right? So how we can do that? Again, it's very simple. We will not write down this JavaScript by ourselves. Definitely you can, but just to make it simple, what we will do here is we will go to the Google, because this is one of the very common functionality to populate the random colors. So here I'll be putting the random color generator JavaScript inside the Google, and whatever the code that I'll be getting from here, let me directly use that. So here you can see they are already I'm getting one function here, which is generating the colors for me. So I'll be directly using that function. Let me go and put this outside the render callback. So here I'll be putting that function. Again, they are not following all the good practices. For example, in our here, we should not be going for the var. Let me go and define here the let keywords. Again, it will not harm anything, but let's not follow the bad practice. Again, as per the syntax of the LWC, we should not be using the function keyword. So let me take that out because this is inside the class. Now it all looks good. A quick formatting, right? And what we are getting here from this method is the color. Now what we have to do, we have to simply go and call this method and insert the color. So again, where we have to do that, if I again follow this inside my rendered callback, under the background, I have to go and populate the color. How we can do the traversing for the background? Data sets of 0. Inside this, I do have this background color. Like we have done the previous traversing for the actual data. Similarly, we will do the traversing here as well. So again, data sets of 0 dot. So what is the property this time? That is the background color. So here I'll be putting the background color dot. What we have to do, we have to go and add the background color. So here I'll be putting the push, and what I have to add, whatever the random color that I will be getting. So let's simply go and call this method. So this dot random color. This is our method, right? Get random color. So I am simply calling this method. So this is how I am populating all this data into the result variable, right? Once all this data has been populated, what I will do basically, let's go and store this kind of an output that we are getting from the data into the this.config.data, because my chart is expecting this complete config, right? My chart is not expecting this individual data here. My chart, it is not expecting this individual data. So what we will do now here is, once your data has been populated, then here I go and put this dot config dot data. This is the property that we have initially taken it out. So I'm again populating that property with the data that we have prepared here. Okay, rest of the things is we will keep as is, because we have only taken out this property to populate the dynamic data. So this is how we have done, right? So this is where we have done some kind of a modern JavaScript or the advanced JavaScript. I hope you folks found it helpful. So let me quickly go and deploy this and we will check the output now, whether it is coming up as expected or not. So this part is done. Let's go to the org. Here I go. Let me refresh the flow. And I will hit the debug button one more time. Let's go and do this. So again, I'll be running the expense for the September month. We have already filled the data. So let me go and expense this. Here you can see that we are getting the color, but we are getting only one color. Not sure why. Okay, so we will recheck. Let's go and run this for some another date range in case or some bigger date range. Let's go and see. So I'm running this from the 2020 first to the current date just to validate. Okay, there is something wrong that we are doing or might be the code that we have copied to generate the random color. It is generating only one single color, that is the black. Let's quickly go and check that out. We have used this method, right? Let's go to the Apex. Rest of the things are populating as expected. You can see that my dynamic data is coming up. Only thing here is the colors are not coming up. So let's quickly have a check. This random color. Okay, I believe what I have not done here is I missed the bracket while calling. So might be that reason it is not coming up. Let's quickly deploy this one more time and we will have a quick check whether it is coming up as expected or not. So here I go and close this, refresh the page. Debugging it one more time. I hope this time the correct color should come up with the dynamic data. Let me go and run this one more time for the September month, clicking on next. Yes, this time you can see that the different colors are also generating based on the different random numbers that we are passing. And again, everywhere it is showing, if you hover over it, it is show you that for the insurance, how much money has been spent in that month, for the miscellaneous, how much money has been spent. And we do have the actual chart running based on the actual data. And we have done that inside the screen flow. So again, just to summarize, in this project, we have explored the different things. So we have explored the flow, we have explored the LWC, Apex. We have seen how to use the Apex inside the LWC. We have seen how to use the LWC inside the flows as well. Moreover, we have also seen how we can use the third-party JavaScript inside the Lightning Web Component. Again, I hope you folks will like this project and get some learnings from this project. Do let me know in the comment section. Thank you. Have a good time.